So just talking about pilots, right? I know that Nigerians are very resilient. I've seen a lot of Nigerians try to sort of start their own businesses and pilot initiatives. But why do a lot of pilots fail? And even when you have a few pilots that succeed, to scale up becomes really extremely challenging.
Okay, so number one, the intention around the pilot. Some people know that they're going into a pilot that would never scale. It's okay, right? Because you do pilots for different reasons. You might do a pilot to see how it looks like at the end, or you may do a pilot to actually even learn. It's part of the research to test the market. For example, if you're bringing a new product into the market, I wouldn't advise you to attack Lagos first. I'd advise you to go to a small state, do a controlled pilot. If people hate it, or at least you can manage it within that locality and fix it before you go to the likes of Lagos, where one mistake is amplified, at least there you can. So it all depends on what they want to achieve with the pilot. And again, if you're piloting a long-term system or project, then you need to ensure that your pilot is a step in the actual project. So maybe you have a phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. If phase 1 is your pilot, you're not going to abandon the pilot. You're going to extend or scale the pilot into a different phase. So maybe a thing like you're building a renewable energy refinery and you're starting very small as a pilot, you should be able to integrate into the larger plant when it's time to scale. So it should be useful.
So oftentimes when people talk about innovation, they talk about technology. They think technology, but innovation is way beyond technology. And now when we look at on the global scale or landscape, there's a lot of discussions about the creative economy. And Nigeria and Nigerians are very big on creativity. How can we harness this better to sort of inform local solutions, given some of the challenges that Nigeria is facing?
So this is discussion about creative sector and local solutions. The creative sector has high potential to grow Nigeria. It's a very huge GDP contributor that is currently sleeping. And the reason why it is the lack of structure around that sector. The reason why fintech is scaling is because it's a structured sector. The banks are structured, accounting is structured, anything banking for transaction is very straightforward. That it's very structured. But when you're now going into the creative industry, where there's a lot of other things, and a lot of creators as well don't have project management skills. They're creatives, they don't keep to time. So it's a thing where a lot of intentionality has to play. And Nigeria is becoming very dynamic, where you see professionals from different spheres playing into new industries. So for example, you're going to need a lot of lawyers in the creative industry now, because there has to be some sort of understanding and covering the intellectual property and things like that in the creative space. So I'd advise anyone going into the creative space to approach it as a business, because a lot of them it's a hobby turn, or I want to take it serious. But you actually need to think about, is this a hobby or is this a business? And another thing is creatives and also technical delivery experts need to also ask themselves these serious questions, because I meet a lot of founders who are doing well with their company, but I have to tell them the truth to say, you're not the best person to drive this business. You're not going to scale this business. In fact, it is because of you, your business isn't growing. And that is very hurtful, because they grew that business. But it comes to a time where you might need to step down to get the right skills to move forward. So
I just want to pick back on one of the ideas you gave, and you mentioned opportunities when we talked about the creative economy, and that, for instance, there's a lot of opportunity for lawyers, for instance. But how many of our lawyers are actually equipped, for instance, to, when it comes to the kind of legal framework for the creative economy. And you can say the same for other vocations. So what's your view in terms of that?
I think the legal system in Nigeria has to become more dynamic. I think there's a curriculum that has been used that I'm not sure if they update, because it seems like they're producing similar lawyers batch by batch. But now the world has changed. Different focus areas. There's lawyers in tech, lawyers in creative, lawyers in industrialization. The different focus areas where niches are being, addressed and built. So I think it's for the management of the law schools to maybe expose the curriculum and see where the world trends are legally and maybe addressing the issues. And also this could be an opportunity to open up new markets as well from a legal standpoint, because, for example, if lawyers are being trained on the understanding and management of the creative industry rules, policies, and bylaws, then for executive directors and producers, they see the need clear to say, okay, this is why we need a lawyer on the team, or this is why we need an accountant on the team, because then even the lawyers already know what they're coming to address. But it's not. But right now, it's more of a co-creation where they come in and they don't understand. The business owner doesn't really understand, and then people just try and co-create, a framework that suffices, and then eventually, as the business scales, you're going to run into trouble.
Very valid points there. And I just wonder, when it comes to innovation and creativity, how do we start to move from just products to even things like our institutions? Because our system, these products, these businesses will have to exist within a system. So what's your view and what's your experience around that?
So there are different types of businesses and different types of innovation. So we're very familiar with technological innovation and startups. So a startup is very different to an SME by definition, understanding, and operation. A startup is geared for 10x and exits. An SME is geared towards long-term, steady development and growth. For example, if you want a family business, you want a business for your children to take over, you're not a startup, you're an SME. But the startup is, I want to grow very fast, pay back all my investors and exit. But for an SME, you can want to build that legacy and things like that. So it's all about really understanding what type of business you are first. Then you start making the decisions that guide progress around that.
So how do we start to move towards sustainability from just survival, subsistence, like startups try to it's really difficult and challenging in this context, for instance. And I would imagine in several other African countries. You've been working in this, on this continent for quite a bit, with a lot of experience with different types of companies. How would you suggest, or how do you recommend that, such organizations, startups, SMEs move more towards sustainability and not just, exiting the survival mode, as it were?
Well, sustainability stems from really what I'm about to say. People don't even see it, but wherever you get your money from determines the success of your business. So if you start off with a bank loan, maybe high interest loan, it's very, very apparent that sustainability will be a very, very strong issue while you're scaling. But if you get your capital from patient capital, from maybe people who understand the journey that your business is going to grow, then, on a sustainability manner, then maybe you can get more time. But it's all about the model first. So your business model must be sustainable. You can't have a business model that is hinging on volatility or hinging on a variable. It has to hinge on something that you can trust and predict. So once you are able to do that, then you know what a good year looks like and what a bad year would look like within some certain criteria of events, right? So it's all about the model. I'll give you an example. I did talk about the AfriLabs Connect platform, which is a platform that aggregates all the stakeholders in the ecosystem for innovation. So that's the government, the academia, the DFIs, startups, the hubs, you know. And in that platform, we built a deal room. So this deal room is targeted at scale-ups, right? Businesses who are looking to scale into other countries or expand. So mature businesses looking to raise $20 million, $50 million. So these deal rooms exist in the world. It's not a new thing, but our model is very, very different. So we've been able to, as a non-profit, tie in the investors to the startups, to business support organizations, the hubs, and the whole ecosystem at large, where for example, if a startup is looking to raise, so a scale-up is looking to raise, you've raised your pre-seed, maybe you raised $1 million, your operations are right, now you want to move to Nairobi to scale. But Nairobi is a different market, different policy, and then you need investment, right? An investor might see your business to say, this looks good on paper, it looks good, I can see you've been running for 4 years, great. But I think you might need to tighten some places, maybe financial management or positioning. And then they might require you to go for an investment readiness training or program. Now, within our business model, we're not just looking at the startups and investors, we created room for business support organizations. And these are also startups or could be mature businesses. So we then tell the investor to say, okay, look at this startup. Are you interested in investing? They're like, yes, but the startup needs X, Y, Z, due diligence and investment readiness. We go back to our ecosystem to say, who can provide that service, right? We speak to the service providers. The service provider speaks to the startup. And then we sit in the middle as recommending parties to say, investor, we have done due diligence and we know that the service provider can do a good job. Startup, you need the service provider to unlock funding from the investor. So you can see we've built some sort of ecosystem within the deal room where everybody is playing a key role, you know. So this is like a sustainable model, and we are a non-profit. So how do we even intend to manage this deal room, you know? So there's a registration fee, there's a success fee, but at the end of the day, it's opportunity creation for the startup, for the investor. So some investors have the money but lack the understanding of Africa. There are some business support organizations who have that data, right? So it's not just serving the startups, they can now serve the investors to paint a clearer picture of what the African ecosystem looks like, or maybe the sector they want to focus on, you know, and then the investor now has the right criteria to set for the startup to say, okay, I'm going to give you $2 million, but instead of the repayment being in 2 years, based on the research I've done with the BSO, we're looking at 6 years because we understand what you're going to go through. So it's all about information and data quality.